Welcome to Canned, the podcast where we crack open real conversations about marketing, creativity, and brand building. Join us for our first ever episode where we break down the Cannes Lion Festival and all the things we learned.
Happy Friday. How's your day been, Steph?
Not bad, Ben. Mostly just really excited about doing this podcast. Kind of a certain level of stress of just getting it underway. So this is kind of an exciting way to end the week and start the podcast.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I've been thinking about this podcast for quite a while. And last night I was setting up this podcast in my living room and getting all the lights and everything ready. And I thought I was set up. And then when we did this mic check, it sounds like we've still got a lot of learning to do. So there's definitely going to be an adventure for both of us.
And the funny thing is, I thought I was the organised one, like going into Cannes when we met and I had everything planned and you didn't. And I sort of had this great sense of being smug because I'm the organised one here, I'm the type A personality, and yet here I am. I've spent the last 42 minutes trying to work out how to set my microphone up. So here we are.
It's definitely a balance. I'm a big fan of having plans, but also being flexible and, being open to opportunity as it pops up and making it look effortless.
So what are we here to talk about today?
We can talk about how we met maybe and talk about Cannes. And I really like that video that you shared with me earlier today about the pronunciation. Tell us a bit about that.
So when I've been telling everyone for a good 8 months that I was going to Cannes and then I've been to Cannes and now that's all I talk about. And then it occurred to me when we were there that no one else was really calling it Cannes, and I thought maybe that was just, we were just really kind of exotic and French and we just said it the right way and all the Americans said it the wrong way. And now that we've decided that this is kind of our first episode, I was like, I should probably look up how to actually say the word. And then I thought maybe it was an American accent versus a British accent. And actually, as it turns out, so for anyone listening, I decided to look up a YouTube video on how to pronounce Cannes, and it turns out it's can. And I don't know if I can say it as can, so I don't know, I'm going to switch between both.
It is can.
Were you surprised?
I was surprised. I mean, I think it's kind of like any French word. There's always mispronunciations like moe and moet. What's correct? I'm pretty sure it's moet. But I think we just try to be really fancy with French words. So I thought maybe we could talk a bit about our first time at Cannes.
What I'd realised is there were probably only about 28 people from New Zealand in total going. And so I think what was really unique about our story is that we were both taking ourselves there off on our own steam. And I actually didn't know anybody else doing that. Everyone else is kind of in agency land, gets to go with their company. And so I think that's probably I think it's a good thing to note that actually there aren't that many people that go from New Zealand. I was really surprised by that.
It is a long way. I mean, the flight is really long. The flight is expensive and the tickets are expensive as well. And, probably there needs to be some kind of ROI for the whole trip as well.
100%. And actually that's probably a really good place to start. So what made you what made you as a kind of a business owner decide that it was a good investment to go?
So I'm challenging myself to get out there, to meet people, to discover new ideas. And the Cannes Lions Festival is the premier marketing event in the calendar. And the way that I learn is connecting with other people. And what better way to learn than learning from the best in the industry? And that's, anywhere from the speakers that are on stage, but I think even more importantly, and this is what I found out at Cannes itself, it's the people that you meet at drinks, it's the people that you meet at dinner, it's the people that you meet waiting in line for one of the talks. That's where the value is. That's where the learning really happens. I looked at our T&E budgets and there was a decision made, but I also bundled it with meeting clients in Europe as well. So the trip wasn't just about the conference, it was also meeting clients across Europe at the same time.
Yeah, because the cool thing when I met you, you're like, well, I'm going to come, but actually, Steph, I'm also going on a perfume tour. I'm going to Italy at the same time. Like you were gone for 3.5 weeks or something ridiculous?
It was a good trip, and I did take advantage of the weekends to enjoy Europe as well. And I also stopped off in Singapore on the way back for a couple of client catch-ups as well. So definitely made that budget stretch.
And I think from my side, the way I like to explain this to people are like, why, how did you end up in Cannes? That's amazing. And I think the way I've described it to people is I'm a career marketer, and I have worked on brands with big budgets. It's typically been what I've done. And even I know that to get to somewhere like Cannes, here's my theory, you've pretty much got to have kind of a big budget and work with a big agency who wants to enter awards. Like, that's step one. Second of all, you kind of have to be top of the food chain as a client to go, because it's so expensive for an agency to go that they're only going to take the top person in the client. They're not going to take someone kind of below a CMO level. So I kind of had to get to that stage, work in a company that was going to enter awards, had the money to spend, and be top of the chain. And then it just was looking like a more unrealistic, like as time went on, it's like I said to you, there's 28 people that went this year. Not many clients would have gone. It would have been all agency people. And then I started my business in April 2024. And I remember listening to podcasts, listening to John Evans and Mark Ritson talking about Cannes and how amazing it was. And I was like, that sounds great. I reckon I could go. Like, I've got my own business now. I don't have to ask anyone's permission. I'm just going to do it. And then we get to the cost part. And then that's the bit where I was like, heck, it's so expensive. So my journey was I went onto the website and I signed up for the pre-release and all the rest of it. And then I realised it's €5,000 for a ticket.
That's a lot.
And then that's outrageous, right? So what's that in New Zealand dollars, Ben?
Oh, it's almost double that.
So it's about 12 grand. And so I was like, that's my first year of business. Doesn't really feel like it's a good use of money to spend 12,000 New Zealand dollars on 5 days of learning. Like, that's like, you compare that to what you could probably do in training somewhere else. Like if you were working in a business and what you might spend on your learning and development. So that kind of killed the dream. And then I think one of the things to really point out is that, so the traditional ticket that you get, like the classic ticket, is €5,000, but actually what they've done as part of that program is they've made it heaps more accessible. So now one of the reasons that you and I could probably, look at it as an option is they've got a startup ticket. And so pretty sure that's what you went on, Ben. That's what I went on. And so that was €1,200, which was a lot cheaper.
It's still an investment, and that's not even getting there or staying there.
No. So, do you want to break it down? Tell us about your how you did it. How much was your accommodation? How did you find your accommodation? How do you even start? So you get the ticket, and then what happens?
So I bought the ticket, and I knew the first thing to tackle was accommodation, because I thought Cannes during Lions, it's going to be very expensive. And I had a quick squiz at the hotels, and they were all costing around, I would say, 500 a night New Zealand dollars. Which is, and I mean, I think that's reasonable, but I wanted a bit less. So I got on Airbnb and started doing a bit of search. And my conditions were, I wanted a nice little apartment within Cannes itself, because some people do stay out of Cannes in different places. But I wanted to be able to either walk and or bus. So I was able to find an Airbnb, and I paid about 1,200 New Zealand dollars for 5 nights. So about $250 a night, which is really good. What I didn't realize is that it did not have air conditioning.
And how did that go for you? What's the temperature like?
It was balmy. I mean, I feel like it was regularly in the 30s.
Yeah.
And the humidity was up as well. But yeah, I survived. There was a fan in the room. That fan was on whenever I was in the room, and I kept it nice and dark. And yeah, I survived, and I had a good sleep. I think a lot of it is just mindset and kind of just accepting that, okay, there's no AC. We're just going to make this work. And it worked. And I mean, it ended up being really enjoyable, and it was a great little apartment.
So let's break this down. What did we say? About $5,000 for the ticket, $1,200 for the accommodation. What about your flights?
Flights were about $3,000 as well.
Right. So same for the ticket, obviously. And then I flew via Hong Kong and then into Paris and then trained down to Nice and then across into Cannes. I went to my accountant and I said, I'd just like you to know that I'm going to France for a conference. She didn't believe it was a work expense. She said, well, it better be work then the whole time. So I did it by the letter of the law, went there and then went straight back. So I had air conditioning. I had an entire apartment, which actually was amazing. So it was slightly out of the way, which I really enjoyed. And then actually I just got the bus in and it was 20 minutes every day. So my accommodation was $1,700 for what I thought was the whole time. And then actually what I discovered is I'd forgotten to book my last night. So it was $1,700 plus the $280 I spent for the last night to stay actually in Cannes. So I don't reckon that was too bad. The worst part for me was the night, not the worst part, but the most expensive was the night in Paris on the way down. And that was $450 just for one night. So that came as a real shock to the system.
Yeah, Paris is expensive. And I thought that Cannes would be more expensive than Paris.
What does it cost when you're there? Like, what did you spend during the week? So like, it's probably good to talk about, what do we eat? Is it expensive? Were we on yachts having 3-course meals, drinking bottomless rosé? What was your experience like, Ben?
So I had just started a new diet, which is intermittent fasting. So I skipped breakfast and I feel like that saved a lot of money. So typically I would be having black coffee all the way up to lunch, and that coffee was provided free of charge pretty much anywhere in the complex. So you could always grab a coffee. Plus a lot of the agencies and platforms that were there would give away drinks as well. For lunch, typically I would take advantage again of some of the platforms and agencies that had space on the beach, or I'd grab like a quiche or something like that, which was pretty low cost.
My theory on the week is that I think if you were going with an agency, if you were lucky enough to get invited by your agency, or if you were an agency who had entered an award, I feel like your experience would be quite different. You pretty much, if you're on the VIP list, and this is kind of a hot tip for people, register for as many activations as possible. So kind of if you get your name on the door at certain, like there's LinkedIn House, there's Wall Street Journal, there's, if you can get on the list for some of those. What was the other one? Dentsu Beach was probably really popular as well. Mm-hmm. If you can get on the list for those, and you're pretty much guaranteed to get a free lunch, free drink, whatever. You're never short of a glass of rosé because there's free drinks at 5:30 on the terrace every day.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool. But my theory is for people, it's amazing that we went, and I think it was such an experience to have the privilege to be able to go, given how expensive the ticket is. But I was eating baguettes. I was getting a coffee and a croissant every morning for breakfast. It was not the 5-star 3-course meal that you might get if you were with an agency. So I think that's something to keep in mind. It doesn't have to be bougie. Although, Ben, you might want to talk about some of those experiences you had on those yachts that you managed to weasel yourself into.
Yeah, so I was able to get onto a boat, and it was the cognitive boat. So one of my ex-colleagues from American Express from when I lived in New York was in Cannes at the time, and was lucky enough to get me onto the boat a couple of times. So that was really enjoyable. So
what's that like? Tell me, for the people listening, is it literally bottomless rosé? Like, I don't know what it's like. We didn't talk about it. You were just on a super yacht.
It is unlimited. I mean, pretty much everything at Cannes is unlimited. And I think if I was in my 20s, I would have taken advantage of it a lot more. Now that I'm in my 40s, I'm definitely reducing my alcohol and sugar intake. So it was very sensible, but still very enjoyable as well. It's all about that connection. I think one of the things that I learned while I was there is just to be open and connect with people. And I was in the line for TikTok. So I was going into the TikTok experience, which I had pre-registered. And I looked behind me, and there were a couple of TikTokers / Instagrammers that I followed. And I had a big fangirl moment. So it was Missy and Marty, who I follow, and they are 2 comedians that are on Instagram. And I kind of jumped down the line to go and say hello to them. And I was, very shy, and was just like, hey, I'm a big fan. It's really cool that you're here. I can't believe I'm meeting you. But we got to chatting, and I was helping them register and get in and tell them how to get around. It was their first time in Cannes as well. And I mentioned that you can get onto different things, and I talked about the yacht, and they were very keen to get on. And one of the cool things is during that conversation, I was able to get them on that boat as well. So, Cannes is very much about those connections and relationships and being open to opportunity and possibility. And I think that was one of the most inspirational things, just understanding that, how important relationships are in business, but also in marketing and at Cannes as well.
I think the standout for me, I find it really hard to convey to people. You and I are in marketing. We go to marketing events all the time. We bump into each other at marketing events frequently, and that's great. Like I'm the first person to network, and I really, really enjoy it, right? So, but then you go into a global stage. I'm really keen to hear how you found it, but from my perspective, you go to something like Cannes and you walk in, and you're from this tiny country, and it's really hard to explain the scale of it. So the way that I've described it to people is it's a bit like going to Coachella, but your bands are like you say, it's your TikTok heroes on the stage. It's not, it's not Beyonce, but it's damn near close to it, right? If you're in a creative world. So you kind of walk in, and the event itself is split over, I think, 5 different stages. So you get to choose where you go. And not only that, there's, there'd be like 1.5 kilometres of beach that you can walk down, and they've all been, there's branded beaches. So there's Meta Beach, there's Dentsu Beach, there's Little Black Book Beach, etc. And you walk in there and you see all these people, and I don't know, I think we might have been over 5,000 attendees from what I've read. And you go, God, Mom, I'm here on my own. Who am I going to speak to? It's going to be really lonely. And there wasn't a single time where I was on my own going, oh, people are ignoring me, no one wants to chat. Like, I feel like that was probably your experience as well.
Yeah, there was so many people to talk to. And I was fangirling the whole time. Some of the people that I saw present, so Cara Swisher, who is on the Pivot podcast, she was at Adweek House, and I got to see her present. Sadly, I didn't get to see Pivot live. I was really keen to see Scott and Cara in person, but I was able to see Cara, and seeing people like that present was really good. But yeah, there were celebrities everywhere, real celebrities and marketing celebrities, and creators. I think as Cannes used to be more of the traditional marketers and advertisers turning up, as marketing is changing and as we're becoming more tech platform focused. So Google and Meta are there, but then also now all of the creators are coming. So, I haven't been to previous Cannes, but from talking to people that have been there for a while, the marketing is changing, Cannes is changing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, just to even think about the people that were there, everywhere you turned, right? So you'd be in a line with someone and they'd go, I've just seen Travis Kelce and Reese Witherspoon and Serena Williams. I'm like, oh, fuck. I've missed all these cool people. And that's the other thing, is you've just got to be really happy with the fact that you've turned up and you've seen something amazing. But you know what? There's probably 5 other things that are just as cool down the road, and you just can't, there's absolutely no way you can get around and see them. And so right from day one, right? Like you just have to be happy knowing that you're missing out. And part of my personality is FOMO, and I want to be like right in the action and kind of where everything is. And it's just fucking impossible. For me, I had this moment where I'd gotten invited to Colin's house, and God knows how I got on the list. And it was slightly out of town a little bit, and then we had to walk up a hill, and I was like, okay, but if I go to this, I'm going to be missing like this chat over here with some CMOs and blah, blah, blah. And I've walked into this mansion, and we got driven up the driveway in golf carts. And then we turn up, and there's this mansion with pools and pool towels, and there's obviously free drinks and free lunch, and there's all these movie people, producers from New York, and then someone else comes like, now if you'd just like to join us on the lawn, Will.i.am and John Hegarty will be giving a speech shortly. It's just outrageous. Like, it's outrageous. And I'm just standing there and people are like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, just do some marketing in New Zealand. Like, no big deal. Don't worry. But no one cares. Like, no one cares. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I found anyway.
Yeah, no one cares, but also they're interested. Like, people know New Zealand, and New Zealand does have a good brand, and New Zealand agencies and creatives did take a number of lions, and we're going to talk about that on the next episode. Is that, you know, the Kiwi creatives do punch above their weight. I was lucky to see a presentation by Sir Peter Jackson, and
that's one I missed out on. Really wanted to go and see that, missed it.
Yeah, and you can't see everything, and it was great to see him present, and great to hear the stories that he told, and about his creative process, and about, you know, the movies that he's made, and he's really put New Zealand on the map, and a lot of people know him and know the Lord of the Rings work, and it's amazing the innovation that he has brought to the creative and production industry, and hearing him present. Yeah, it makes you feel like, proud to be a Kiwi, really. And he drew a big crowd, and people are coming there to meet other people. And so sometimes you just have to put aside your insecurities and just understand that everyone's kind of in the same position as you are. They've come to Cannes to network, to learn. And once you realize that, and once you start chatting to people, they're super easy to chat with as well.
One of the other things because I think you and I both met people, well, on both sides of the coin, right? So I definitely met people who are like, I'm not coming with a ticket next year. I'm not going to come with a ticket. I'm just going to go and do all the stuff that's around it. So that's the other thing probably to point out for anyone who's thinking about it. You can get your ticket for a certain amount of money. But actually, there's so many events, like the one that I went to at Colin's house, that had nothing to do with the festival. That was completely separate. So in order to put that into perspective, I met will.i.am and John Hegarty. Now, will.i.am and John Hegarty also spoke at probably 3 other things, right? Like, they weren't just there for that one hour chat. They would have been part of the festival, and so they kind of bounce around. So you almost sometimes get several opportunities to see people if you're really interested. What do you think about that in terms of, do you reckon, I don't know, the pros and cons of getting an actual festival pass versus just going to the extra stuff? And if you did the extra stuff, what would that look like?
Yeah, there's a list. So one of the, I think they're an agency called Propeller, and we can share the details after this. But they put a list. I think they said they had 1,000 different events that were outside Cannes. So
Wow.
they're obviously there because their audience is there, which are all of these marketing execs from around the world, but they're outside the festival, but still at the festival. So yeah, there's so many opportunities. So you don't have to buy a ticket. You know, if you don't want to, you can still be there. You can still be in Cannes and participate and actually go to a lot of the events without buying the ticket.
How would you do it, do you reckon? Like, because I've got that same question, right? Like, I'd love to go back, but how would you do it to go to those? You just have to know who's going to be there and how to get into their events.
You have to know who's going to be there. Maybe find someone that does have a ticket so that they can kind of share the schedule and things and all of the sponsors. There are some things that you can't get into without a ticket. So closing party, drinks on the roof, all of the organized talks. Obviously, the every evening they have the prize giving where everyone gets their awards. So yeah, there's definitely things that you won't be able to get into, but there are things that happen technically outside. So pretty much the whole beach. So we're talking Meta, Spotify, Google, all of those things you can register separately. You don't necessarily have to have a festival pass, and you can get into those venues and listen to talks and experience their offering and talk to salespeople, obviously. But yeah, there's a lot that you can do, a lot of value you can get without having a full pass. But there's definitely, I think for someone going for the first time, I would recommend a pass because you then get all of the communications around it. You get to experience the awards and yeah, especially if you can get one of the, like if you're a new agency or a startup agency, you can take advantage of some of those other tickets. I also met students that had come along, and there's educational passes that you can get. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways and a lot of accessible passes that Khan are doing.
They've definitely made it more, they've definitely broadened the appeal, right? Because there's what you can go, there's special passes for under 30s, like you say, students. So you get the opportunity to have a startup pass for the first 5 years, is that right? So once you've been in business for 5, because that's another thing, I think I'd go again for that price. Like I think it'll, largely become unaffordable potentially otherwise. So yeah, they've really broadened it, which I think is awesome.
So what was the most valuable presentation or talk that you went to while you were there?
There were a couple of real standouts for me, and I think the ones that really demonstrate, the one thing that I keep coming back to, and they actually, funnily enough, they've all got really similar themes. So it's no surprise if anyone's been following me on LinkedIn. I met Mark Ritson, I met John Evans, like my marketing heroes. Les Burnett was there. So kind of all those gods of marketing, and they all had very similar things to say. And I think the one thing that stood out to me and the thing that I'm really passionate about is the creator economy, and that came out heaps. And there was one example, it's also kind of my favorite, it was at this great fangirl moment. So talking about the sale of Poppy UK to PepsiCo, and the premise of the presentation was, what drove that 2 billion sale price? Was it the great brand marketing that they did, or was it the influencer with Alex Earle? And so I thought that was really interesting, because one of the things that often happens in my world is you get really scared, particularly in New Zealand, to use creators. You go, oh no, I've got my brand guidelines and I can't have them do anything that's different to my brand, and they're going to fuck it up, and like we just don't want to relinquish control. And I've been guilty of that, and I still don't know how to nail this whole, nail getting the brand right in TikTok, for example. But what was so cool, and it was, and again, like I say, it was a theme around many of the presentations, was going, it actually doesn't matter if it's a creator or a brand, as long as you understand what your brand positioning is and the role of a creator to bring it to life in a way that's really dialed into your audience. And if you're working in partnership with a creator, and I want to use that word instead of influencer, because I think that's more relevant to kind of where it's going. Those people are really dialed into what their audience want, probably more so than you are as a brand, in my opinion. And they can bring to life your brand in a way that probably the marketing department can't. And that kind of doesn't pain me to say that. I think that's really exciting. Mm-hmm. And that came through, like I say, in lots of those presentations. And I think the thing for New Zealand to take away from that is, I don't think we have a creator economy anywhere near what is available on the world stage. And I think that's really exciting, and I think that's an opportunity. What about you?
I would agree. I think, just on your point that, New Zealand doesn't have the creator economy, I think because of the scale or lack of scale there is in New Zealand, it's quite hard for the economics to work. Just like it's hard for a new brand in New Zealand to really grow to any particular size if all they're focused on is the New Zealand market. They really need to look at the Australian and international market if they want to get any kind of scale. And that if you look at an influencer or a creator that is coming out of the US, the population and the consuming population there is so much larger. So, it makes sense that they're able to grow a lot faster. Yeah. But you're right, there is an opportunity for creators here. And I think the Australians do it really well. They have a very strong creator economy, but again, they have an economy that's many multiples of New Zealand.
How does that work? Because, one of the things about us having this dynamic too is that you're kind of you're definitely more in that B2B space. I'm like your classic B2C FMCG marketer. Is there a role for creators in B2B? Like, what would they do?
100%. And I think the rise of LinkedIn as a platform really shows that. So essentially, any individual that is on LinkedIn has the opportunity to become a creator, to give their perspective on the work that they do and the products and services that they sell. So yeah, LinkedIn was a big presence at Cannes this year. There was the B2B summit that they hosted in the Carlton Hotel, and there was the LinkedIn rooftop. They had an activation for creators on the platform, and a lot of the content that they're producing at the moment is video content. And we were just at the Digital Day Out with the Marketing Association, and we had a presentation from LinkedIn there as well, talking about video and how prominent video is becoming on LinkedIn. What would you have liked to have known before you went? Like, is there anything that you were like, oh, if only I'd known that before I left?
I'd definitely taken a fan. It was so hot.
An electric one, or just a regular big fan?
I think I'd take one of it. Oh, okay. So here are the mistakes. Okay, let's talk about here are the mistakes I made, right? So it'll come as no surprise to anyone who knows me that I planned my outfits. Like the fashion side of it was like a really big deal. I was super excited about that side of it. So I had all my outfits and my shoes and stuff sorted. I got blisters, so I changed my shoes frequently. I got blisters every time I changed a pair of shoes. It was so hot. It was outrageous. And I think, I explained to people, like we've talked about the fact that we ate baguettes and quiches, right? Like we certainly weren't going out for long lunches. I was gone from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night. By the time I got home, my white linen looked like it was like a wedding dress. It was filthy. So I think just be prepared for really long days. I thankfully didn't take my laptop in with, I was like, I'm going to take my laptop and I'm going to like write all these notes and it's going to be amazing. If I'd had to cart that thing round for 10 hours, I think I just would have collapsed. It was so heavy. So pack light on the day. Like it's a marathon, not a sprint, I reckon, that 5 days. Like it really is like a festival. That's probably the biggest mistake I made. What about you?
Air conditioning for the apartment. I think that was one of the big mistakes. But there were some things like I had a lot of linen. So I took a lot of linen, linen pants, linen shirts. I also had a lot of, I'm going to call them mesh. They were like kind of shirts with holes in them. They still had collars and things, and they looked good, but the wind just blew right through them, and they were perfect. So walking down the beach, it really works. So
Ben's hot tip: wear mesh.
Wear mesh, yeah. Tasteful mesh. It is a professional setting. The other thing I didn't realize is that the clothes at the shops there are a lot of options. Like when I thought about Cannes, I thought, all there are gonna be is, Louis Vuitton stores and Gucci stores. And yes, there are those on the main beach. But if you go a block back, you've got your high street stores and, there are affordable options. So, if you turn up and realize that you've forgotten something or you want to adjust your outfit, there are affordable options in Cannes where you can pick up. I think I picked up another 3 shirts while I was there.
100%. So I went, because I was really organised. So I turned up on the Sunday, packed up my pass, was like super, and then I might have been sitting down at a cafe having something to eat. And then I heard these 2 women go, now we're just off to Zara. And I literally followed them. I was like, oh, this is Zara. Happy days. Because I hadn't gone there to shop. Like that absolutely wasn't part of my plan to shop. And then I just, it was great. So actually that's a really hot tip. For the women, you can mix and match your shopping with your, actually going to events. It's great. Shops are open till quite late. That was an awesome side of it. Oh, the other thing, I had another thing that was a highlight actually. Is something that people probably wouldn't think to do. So there's the actual festival itself, and you and I both did it separately, is go for a swim in the ocean. So I knew my friend's uncle was working, he was like doing IT for the whole setup for Cannes, and he's like, look, I've seen people just go for a swim in the daytime, wash off in the showers, and then just go back into the event. And actually that was quite a cool way to break it up, because you get it's intense, right? You spend the whole time going, okay, I've got 30 minutes to get to this one, or I've got to go and meet someone over here. And it was just nice to kind of just took an hour in the middle of the day, did a little bit of sunbathing, read, and just had a swim. It was awesome.
And I heard a story. I don't know if the story was from this Cannes or a previous one, but apparently there was a really eager festival goer that wanted to see a particular person perform. I think it might have been at Spotify. And the story goes that they didn't have a wristband, but they really wanted to get in. So they jumped in the water and tried
I met this guy. This is a true story. I met the guy who did it.
He tried to swim down and they were shining lasers in his eyes. So people are watching because, all of these big stages set up right on the beach. And you thought, oh, yeah, you can just swim to it. But yeah, you met him, Steph.
Yeah, so he told me, I must have told you the story. So yeah, that's exactly right. He put all of his stuff in his backpack and went swimming and thought he could just sneak onto the Spotify beach, which is, I reckon, such a Kiwi thing to do, like give it a crack. I don't know where he was from. But the funny thing was, he had a great sense of humour. He had a slight hole in his backpack and his phone stopped working. So he got water on his phone and so he's like, I can't use my phone anymore. I mean, he was still pretty upbeat about the whole thing, but yeah, basically he had to swim back to shore and put all his clothes back on. He didn't get to see a free concert. So we don't recommend that as an approach, probably. Like, have a swim, but maybe not at night time and try and sneak into a concert.
And how did they stop him getting onto the beach?
I think with the lasers. Like, they must, and they probably went to, he didn't make it onto the beach. I think they were just like, piss off. Off you go on your bike, mate.
Yeah, the security there is heavy. Like a lot of the evening events, you'd have to go through full metal detectors. The closing party was amazing. On the last day, on the Friday, a lot of people were leaving. So a lot of people that I were talking to would finish on the Thursday and they would be, starting to pack down. And on Friday, and I was like, maybe the closing party isn't all that.
Yeah,
wow.
Maybe there'll be no one there, right? Yeah.
I was so wrong. That closing party was one of the most amazing things I've ever been to, right on the beach. They reconfigured a couple of stages that had been used during the week. So Thursday night, they had crews working all through the night to kind of reconfigure this venue for the closing party. And it was massive, and they had a big stage. They had unlimited drinks, whatever you wanted to order, cocktails, wine. It was unreal.
It was mental.
We queued for a while. Like we were in that queue for, a good half an hour at least. But once you got in, everyone got a glass of champagne. The music was playing, everyone was having a good time. Everyone was dressed up. There were, little activations. There were photo opportunities everywhere. They had the most amazing fireworks. They had like these flamethrower things on top of the stage, and they had flamethrowers next to the hotel. It was next level. I'd never seen a production like that on the beach.
There would have been thousands of people, right? And it was all free. It was free. But my favourite memory, Ben, is your absolute delight at discovering, how would you describe it? A vessel made of bread with bread sandwiches inside it.
Oh yeah, that was amazing. Oh, I thought I'd seen everything until I saw this. So they, on this table, they had every kind of food that you would ever want, like all of these hors d'oeuvres and, sweet, savory, everything. But I lost my mind when I saw this. Like, it was like a bread loaf, but they'd like cut the middle out, and then they had cut the middle into sandwiches. So they're kind of like these mini sandwiches, and you took them out, and I lost my mind.
How can we, because I've got that video, I just feel like there's an opportunity there to repurpose that video.
Oh.
This is Ben having a good time with the bread.
It was great. And, it's those small things. It's the small things that really make a difference. But that was a big thing. That party was huge. And on top of that, it was all set in front of the Carlton Hotel, which is this beautiful grand hotel, which was all lit up in lights. I get goosebumps thinking about it, and just the music. And then on top of that are all of these amazing people that you've met during the week. And you're getting to dance with them, and you're getting to enjoy each other's company. And it was a very special evening. And to your point, Steph, when that finished, I was very warm. So I trotted down to the beach, jumped in the water before I continued on for the night. So that was a nice way to finish that evening with a lovely warm / cool swim.
I feel like what's interesting, there's no tea for it. There could have been a way more debauchery. I'm sure other people who went to Cannes and had this experience might have had more debaucherous stories. And, I reflect back on that, and I thought I would have more, but I also go, actually, the way I would describe it is I genuinely feel like I kind of worked that. It's like you're on this amazing holiday, but actually I felt like it was work and it was really valuable because I felt this huge pressure to turn up, learn, really absorb the information that was there. I mean, look, and let's not forget it wasn't a cheap exercise by that, by the same token. So I'd love to say that I was out, having all-nighters. I'd really love to tell those stories, but unfortunately in this case that wasn't to be.
So this was the year of AI. So AI is everywhere. And this for Cannes was the year of AI and the year of technology. And recently there has been a lot of press coming out around awards being cancelled because of unethical practices, some of it involving AI, some of it just involving fabrication of results.
That's right. Yeah.
And so, there is, I feel like the concerns that we have around the industry are playing in. And I think there's also, criticism of the awards and that they are very much keeping the main players in power. I mean, there's a lot of criticism of the big tech platforms that are there and that are kind of sucking up all of the budget. The big Meta and Google and LinkedIn, the existing ad agencies that win all of the big contracts and the big budgets. There's all of because these are work settings and work settings are full of humans, they bring all of their office problems with them, whether that be sexism or racism or, biases towards different ethnicities. And so all of those things follow everyone into Cannes. So
do you reckon it's more because my only exposure to awards really is kind of in New Zealand, right? Do you think it's worse at Cannes on the same level as other, like, it has Access Awards, Spikes Asia, Beacons, you name it? I don't know, do you think it's worse, better, the same?
I think the behaviors generally, and I can't say this from any experience, but my assumption would be the behaviors would be the same, but the stakes are much higher at Cannes. So, the people are paying a higher entry fee to win a lion. The lions are more coveted. So people are going to go to extra lengths. It's like Cannes is the Olympics of the marketing world. And, cheating and things like that happen all through sport. And they happen in the Olympics. But I think because the stakes are so high, the pressure to win is so high, people will sometimes go to extraordinary lengths to win.
Yeah, I agree. I think you'll find that in any awards event, right? And I think, I don't think I realised before I went there actually how hard it is to win an award, like to even get shortlisted. So again, you come back to 27,000 entries. We had that stat from Sam at Motion Sickness the other day, and he said was a 0.2% chance of winning a Grand Prix. Like it's outrageously difficult to win. So, like you say, the stakes are really high. But what that does lend itself to is some of the most extraordinary work globally. And I think that for me was the really exciting thing. Like you're putting yourself right in the middle of really amazing work that you just wouldn't expect. Like there were moments in that whole week where I was in tears because the work was so great,
And that's what brings everyone together, and that is the foundation of Cannes is the work, and they even talk about it as the work. And there's a whole basement that is I got lost in it when I went and visited. I couldn't find the exit, but just like rows and rows of computers and installations of what they call the work, and it is a celebration of the work. It's a celebration of creative and the creative process and the amazing results that marketing can achieve and what marketing can do to better our lives and better the world. And I think that's really the basis of Cannes. It's a celebration of creativity, but it's also a celebration of change, positive change in the world. And when marketing is used in a good way, the amazing impact that it can have. And I think that's why we're all marketers as well.
And I think one of the things I really enjoyed hearing was that how we should fight for good creative. So, I've, again, worked in large corporates. You drink the Kool-Aid, you kind of go, okay, cool, well, I don't know if this happens in your world, but so many times you put a brief in and it comes back and it's a really good idea. You get a really good idea. And then it kind of goes up the chain or it gets watered down and companies get risk adverse and they go, oh, well, maybe we'll join those two ideas together to get something. And I just don't know if this is going to work and, it's a bit risky. And I get that. Like I get the commercial reality for it. I really do. But then you go to somewhere like Cannes and you see what people can do and you can see people being really brave and how being brave, it's almost like anyone can do mediocre work. Like really, anyone can do something really safe and put out, the ad that we've all seen before or the campaign. And I think pushing for really good creativity is something that I'm just so passionate about. And I think, if I was to go, what the best thing that came out of going and spending that money and going to France, like why was it worth it, Steph? And I think the thing I would say is it just makes me want to fight harder for my profession and fight harder for really good creative.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And brand. I think a lot of the marketing we do these days is really bottom of funnel. Like it's essentially in B2B, it's about generating leads, and B2C, it's about selling product, selling service. And it's fighting for that brand story. It's fighting for the human connection, the messages that resonate with people, the reason that we connect as humans. It is really fighting. And the campaigns that win, they connect on that human level. Yes, they might be selling a product at the end of the day, but it's a lot of the campaigns that are winning are brand campaigns.
And it's when you're really solving a problem for someone too, right? Like it's not just another way to sell something. It's going, actually, I can understand the problem that I'm solving for, like you've genuinely found an insight. And I think this is the thing I get really passionate about. When marketing's done really well, it doesn't feel like marketing. It just feels like, oh shit, you've actually put something in front of me that I need. I needed that thing. Or I really wanted it, and I'm happy to part with my money. Because you know what? You've made my life easier. You've solved a problem. And I know that's, don't get me wrong, I've worked in lots of really commercial environments, but I think that's the potential of good marketing.
And marketing itself can be the solution. I think that's the other thing that a lot of people don't understand, including me until recently, that I always used to think that marketing was a way to introduce a product or service that solved a problem, but marketing itself and communication itself can solve problems as well.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. I mean, there's lots of things for us to probably dive into it, as we progress our podcast, right?
So what are we going to talk about next?
I think it's really important to note that this podcast will not entirely be about Cannes or Cannes, first and foremost.
We both met at Cannes, but we've called this podcast Canned. So this is the Canned podcast. And you're right, Steph, it's not just about Cannes, it's about marketing. And the Cannes podcast is a marketing podcast. It is coming from the two of us and our experiences as marketers from a number of different perspectives. And it's for marketers.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, we're both really passionate about what we do. We've got completely different ways in because we've had different pathways, I guess, in marketing. Stuff about B2B that I don't. I've got the FMCG experience. So I think that's kind of that's what we're hoping is going to be interesting and kind of strike a chord with marketers. And hopefully we've come across some things that other people have and we've solved them in some way. But I think the natural starting point for us was obviously that shared experience. And I mean, what better way to start than kind of that top level best marketing and creativity in the world. So yeah, we will milk that probably. We've got, I think our next episode, we're going to really dive into what it takes to win a Cannes Lion. So a little bit of behind the scenes around what the judges are looking for, both in that B2B space and B2C, and maybe having a look at some of the work that we both really liked. There's some things, maybe I'll share some of the things that made me cry.
That'll be good. Yeah, I had a few teary moments there as well, especially from some of the work and some of the campaigns, some really amazing stories. So yeah, that is what we want to talk about on the next podcast is how to win a lion. We'll be talking a bit about some of the work that we really enjoy, and the people behind it as well, and how they brought it to life. We'll be talking about some of the Kiwi examples. So both Steph and I have attended kind of like behind the scenes. We've heard from jury members, we've heard from winners. So we'll be sharing some of those insights as well.
It's pretty cool. And I have to say, there's something really special about seeing Kiwi stuff on stage. And there were a couple of moments, and I won't go into the details now because I feel like we'll cover that off separately, but there were a couple of moments where I was in line or sitting next to somebody. I was like, oh, that's so cool from New Zealand. Like, that's really cool to see that. And that was awesome. So it'd be really cool to have a chat about that as well.